Hello and welcome back to Seagulls Central. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome for the very first time. It is great to have you with me, and if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. Here we are back with a brand new video straight after doing one literally yesterday. We're back again because Brighton have just completed their second pre-season friendly of the 2025-2026 season behind closed doors out in Marbella against Stoke City, and we've got a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. A 3-1 win, some highlights, some less interesting parts, some questions asked, players who were there, players who weren't there. I feel like there is a lot to kind of get into on this matter. And it's something I'm excited to talk about. You know, it's nice to actually have games, that old phrase, coming thick and fast. We've obviously had this one today. We've got another one on, I think, is it Monday afternoon or Monday evening against Las Palmas. And then there's another one, I think, as well. I can't remember. Before we've obviously then got the Southampton one and the Wolfsburg one. So yeah, really excited to be back. Just really quickly, if you haven't already and you enjoyed the content, you've been here before and you enjoyed the content, you've not already hit subscribe, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps me grow this channel, and it means I can keep making content consistently around Brighton and Hove Albion that we can all enjoy. So if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps a lot. Right, let's get into it. So Brighton and Hove Albion, Fabian Hurzeler named 2 starting 11s, as often happens in these games for pre-season. 45 minutes for kind of each 11 players. A lot of players were playing. A lot of players weren't playing as well, I think would be one of the headlines I'd take away from this game. While we saw, you know, Coppola, we saw Van Hecker, we saw Rutter, we saw Mitoma, we didn't see a lot of other players. We did actually see a lot of young players. We saw quite a few academy players, quite a few players probably on the fringes that are likely to go out on loan. And it wasn't even just like new signings we didn't see. We didn't see some of the main stalwarts. So I'll go through the 2 11s. So in the first half, I had Jason Steele in goal. Let me just get my lineups here for you. So we had Jason Steele in goal. Right back, Joel Veltman, Jan-Paul Van Hecker at centre-half alongside Aaron Cashin, with Jack Hinshelwood at left-back. Baleba played at CDM. Ayari played just in front of him alongside Andrew Moran. Harry Howell played on the right, really good performance from him. Mitoma on the left as usual, and then Danny Welbeck down the middle. Pretty standard. Then, the second half, they made the changes. Carl Rushworth came into goal. Charlie Tasker played at right back. Coppola made his first appearance in an Albion shirt, playing at right centre-half. Adam Webster at left centre-half. Pervis Estupiñán at left back. Then we had Milner kind of sitting deep in midfield with Yao Koule and Diego Gomez in front of him. Then up top, we had Georginio Rutter with Kalin Vickers on the left and Buonanotte on the right. It wasn't kind of as clear as kind of Buonanotte being on the right wing or Kalin Vickers being on the left wing. Diego Gomez was often kind of playing up front. Buonanotte was coming inside. It was a real mix of players playing in different positions, but that was generally the kind of team. They were the players we put out, and that was kind of broadly the positions that they played in. So I think the standout, I've made a list here of players we didn't see. So no Bart Verbruggen, obviously no Tom McGill. Lewis Dunk, we didn't see him. We didn't see Kadioglu. We didn't see Igor. We didn't see Maxim de Kuyper. We didn't see Lamptey. We didn't see Buscagli. We didn't see Jacob Slater. We didn't see Solly March. We didn't see Mats Weaver. We didn't see Brian Gruder. We didn't see Tommy Watson. We didn't see Jeremy Sarmiento. No Minteh, no Enciso, no Ferguson, obviously with those 2. No Seema, perhaps obviously with him as well. And no Costellas and no Seamas. So I guess the question is there, why? I think initially when I was thinking about it, I was thinking, why would you not have players who like just signed? Like, you know, it's not like they're not fit. It's not like they've been playing abroad. It's not like they're not up to speed as the other players. They've had just as long a pre-season as everyone else. And then I really looked into it and noticed how many players weren't playing. The best part of like 20 players weren't playing. I would suspect that they're going to be the players that will play on Monday. And I suppose at this early stage in pre-season, you don't want your team playing kind of as they did on Saturday, then again on Wednesday, then again on Monday. I think while we do have such a big squad, we can essentially play 22 players today and then give like another maybe 18 to 20 players, plus maybe a couple of players you play today, the minutes on Monday night. So I think we probably will see a really changed side again on Monday. I don't think we're going to see the form, you know, the forming of like a proper Brighton side until at least probably that Southampton game. I think is that the 3rd of August, and what's that, kind of like just over 2 weeks' time. So, looking at the 11, it's the 11 to be put out. It's quite hard to really get into kind of what are the main takeaways, because at the end of the day, we weren't really seeing, for example, new patterns of play, new formations, new players necessarily linking up. Obviously, we saw your Coppolas, we saw, certain other players, Tasker impressing again. But we weren't necessarily seeing like De Kuipers at left wing back with Biscaglia in a back three with Coppola alongside. We weren't necessarily seeing that. How's Rutter and Minteh all going to link up with Mitoma? Is it going to be Welbeck at the number 9? All of that kind of thing. Who are our two main centre mids? But there's a lot to talk about. Let's get into the goals. The first goal, Kaoru Mitoma scoring that first goal. A classic Kaoru Mitoma. It'd come at a time where really Brighton weren't playing well. For the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, they were playing okay. We had a few shots. Yasin Ayari had a shot from quite far out. He looked pretty lively, I'd say. In his half that he played, he was very lively, very bright, shooting a lot, getting forward a lot, ticking the ball over really nicely, which is something he does really well. The goal, though, came after a period of us not looking great. I looked on Twitter, I saw a tweet. Someone said, "How are we playing, guys? I'm not watching." And everyone just commenting, "Not great, not great." Yeah, and it kind of was a bit like that. Like, Stoke were basically putting everyone behind the ball. We were having to break them down. And at the end of the day, it's pre-season. It's not that tactical. It's really, I imagine, mainly about fitness. So the players are just getting, used to knocking the ball about. But it's quite difficult when you've got, 11 men behind the ball and decent championship players. And what it did is it took a real moment of sharp play, quick play, as we often talk about. I've spoken about before on this channel about breaking down a low block. It took a really sharp piece of play between Baleba, Ayari on the edge of the box. Ayari with a really quick pass when it came to him on the edge of the box. He received the ball. As soon as the pressure came onto him, he immediately popped it off to the left-hand side. Mitoma was running onto it on the left-hand side, just off the left, and went for a little finish, was heading for the kind of bottom right hand corner, took a little deflection off the Stoke defender, and it kind of p-rolls in and evades the goalkeeper. And it was a bit of a, fortunate goal in that sense, but it was a nice kind of start. And, because what had happened by that point is Brighton had a lot of the ball. We'd looked pretty decent. But at the end of the day, Stoke had a few chances. They had a few players up front who were pretty pacey. Aaron Cashin was having to kind of test himself with that pace. And, there were moments where I was thinking, God, can this guy kind of hack it? Like, he clearly is a very good championship defender. But even against kind of a pacey championship forward, there were moments, and he was never caught out, but there were moments where I thought, oh, this guy looks a little bit, I don't know if it is just because he's quite small, I don't know if that sounds a bit bad, but there were moments where I kind of didn't feel fully comfortable. Then obviously after the second half, seeing players like Webster and Coppola, you think, these guys maybe are a different level. But ultimately, Cashin didn't really do anything. In fact, I thought he was really quite good at playing through the lines. There were a few moments where with that left foot on the left-hand side of central defence, he was one of those players where it's so difficult to break down the low block, as I was just saying. And he was one of the players who was actually kind of trying to be a bit incisive in terms of getting the ball forward, getting the ball through the lines. So for all my talk there about kind of maybe feeling like he was a little bit lacking, but I can't really quantify that with anything, to be quite honest. On the flip side, his ball playing was really, really impressive, and I really liked it. So I'm just going to take a little look at the lineup and think about the players that kind of stood out for me in that first half. Obviously, Mitoma, absolutely. I think Welbeck looked sharp again, without obviously scoring 4 goals again, but he looked sharp. The main one, Harry Howell, we didn't see loads of Harry Howell. He didn't get loads of the ball. He was playing on the right wing. Obviously, left-footed player on the right wing. You think about him coming inside. There weren't loads of moments, but what he did, what stood out to me, it's how quick his movements are, how sharp he looked, how keen he is to get the ball. He's always looking for the ball. He's looking to receive it. He's looking to make runs in beyond. I really like from that kind of out to in a lot. Whenever Veltman at right back or JP Van Hecker at right centre back were on the ball, he was very often making that run from right to inward to try and receive the ball, those kind of darting runs. I really liked his enthusiasm. When he gets the ball, he's got a brilliant touch. He's technical, he's quick with it, he passes it quickly. And to me, what I thought in that moment was that actually he looked like a player who, quite frankly, did look at the level that we were playing. And okay, it's pre-season, okay, the standard's probably a bit lower, okay, it's against championship opposition, but the geezer's clearly kind of championship level in my eyes. Whether he'd get a championship loan, I don't know. Whether we're even going to bring him into the first team, I don't know. But say he were to go on loan, I wonder what level we'd kind of send him out to, because he looked good at that level. I think he suits Premier League football. I think there's certain players where loans kind of make sense stylistically. I think there's other players like Harry Howell in this case, who obviously has been fast-tracked through age groups. But in this case particularly, he looks like a player who would suit the Premier League with his technicality, with his fast thinking. Do you know what I mean? You kind of need to be a player who can think quickly and make decisions quickly. You don't have much time in the Premier League, and he has that kind of elite, a lot of the game, I think, in the Premier League is played in your mind, and he's got that quick, elite mindset, I think. Not mindset, mind ability. Do you kind of know what I'm saying? I'm butchering that a little bit. I think he can think quickly to be a Premier League player. So I was really impressed with that. Obviously the socks down, all of that. Jack Hinshaw at left back, obviously his cousin, they were both there with their socks down, which I thought was quite funny. But I thought it was a good performance in the first half. A little bit difficult to kind of really get some momentum. I thought Ayari was good. He looked bright, really energetic. Looked like he had a point to prove. Reminded me of what we saw in Ayari kind of last pre-season, which was funny. And he was so eager to prove himself, and he was clearly eager to do it again. And then we conceded a penalty. Look, there's not really much to say about this. Lewis Baker had an absolute thunderbolt of a shot on the edge of the box. I think it hit the bar, bounced back to someone. They took another shot. Baleba handballs it. Can't really see the actual handball. The feed wasn't great in terms of being able to properly see what happened, but it was a handball. They scored it. It was great. Yeah, they scored a pen. Great. They didn't look amazing, to be honest. So then in the second half, I'll move on to that, the changes we'd made. So obviously we bring Rushworth on in goal. Coppola comes on a centre-back alongside Adam Webster. Charlie Tasker at right-back. Stupinian left-back. We had Milner sitting in. Obviously he played 30 minutes against Wickham, then came off. Part of his rehabilitation, of course. You had Diego Gomez, Buonanotte in kind of midfield as well, alongside Yao Kule, obviously in midfield as well. He did really well for Rutter's third goal, which we'll get onto in a minute. Rutter up front and Kalin Vickers on the left-hand side. So, standouts. We can't really start anywhere else apart from Diego Coppola, who comes on within 3 minutes, scores a goal. Now, before he'd scored a goal, I'd written two things down in my notes on my phone. And they were this. They were, one, he's an absolute beast. He looks like a man mountain. Compared to the other players, he just kind of has that Rolls-Royce look about him. And it might be the dark Italian hair and the moustache and the whole vibe to him, but he's tall, he's big, and he's graceful as well. And he really does have that Rolls-Royce look about him. So that was one of the first things I thought when I saw him. Before he then scored, I also noticed he played this wonderful switch of the ball at right centre-half, switched it over to Kalin Vickers on the left-hand side. And it wasn't like a kind of switch where it kind of landed a bit before him and Kalin Vickers had to run to it. It was the perfect switch of the ball. He's obviously got that in his locker, the passing. He's clearly a unit. And as we saw, he's a player who scored goals. Look, it was a little bit of a... it's hard to judge, isn't it? What's the level we're playing at? Are the players even fit? Like, what are we saying, really? But Kalin Vickers on the left-hand side, who looked really bright, gets the ball with his left foot, runs to the byline, gets it in on the left-hand side. Diego Coppola in quite a bit of space, but loads of power, just heads it straight into the goal. And this was actually 3, 4, 5 minutes into him coming on in the second half, which was brilliant. We restored our lead. Great moment for him. And it's like, he was probably buzzing, but you can't really celebrate, can you? So I'm really, really excited to see what he looks like. He's a player. And I was just watching him thinking like, God, you look really, really good. Like, not even that it was doing anything in particular that was amazing, but it was more the fact that everything just looked so easy to him. He had that kind of Van Dijk way about him where, like, everything just looked quite simple and quite chilled out and quite slow for him in, like, a good way. Do you know what I mean? And obviously Webster alongside him played really well. Didn't see a load of Charlie Tasker on the feed. He was on the far side and the quality was pretty bad, I thought. But he looked decent again. Estupinian played all right, had a few chances, got him behind quite a few times. Kalin Vickers, I think there's something to be said for him. I don't think he's going to be in our first team next season or the squad. However, I think maybe a championship loan for him would be really, really useful for him. He looked like a really bright player, a really technical player. a player who can dribble. He was causing a lot of problems for the Stoke defence in that second half. And of all the players on the pitch you'd have picked, you might not have gone for him. But he looked really impressive. Milner, nice to see him on the ball. He was getting really stuck in. He was really, really putting the tackles in, which I thought was interesting for a player who's just been out for 9-10 months, with a knee injury. But he was not holding anything back, which was really good to see. I think that probably says a lot about where he is. And obviously his fitness that we all know about. Diego Gomez, his role was interesting. He was obviously playing in a central midfield role, but was really pushing in to support Georginio Rutter up front. There were times, I think the commentator at one point said that Diego Gomez was playing up front. I don't think he was, but I can see why he said that, because it was like he was really supporting the striker with loads of attacking runs in a similar but slightly different way, but similar to how kind of Ayari was doing in the first half. And now Kule, one thing I thought about Kule, he wasn't necessarily a player, as we've all kind of spoken about him before, which we know he can do, which is kind of breaking up play, interceptions, tackles. We didn't see so much of that in this game. It was a bit of a slower paced game and a bit more of a technical game. But what we saw was his on-the-ball ability. He's got a really nice passing ability. He can play through the lines really nicely. He can tick the ball over really nicely, which I think is really nice. He's got that really nice kind of like constantly on the move, constantly kind of scanning, looking, bobbing, ready to just pass it, receive it, pass it, receive it. He's got that kind of really nice way about him, which you do see with the elite players quite a lot. He was crucial in the third goal, as I said, that Georginio Rutter scored. He's in midfield, Malik Yaukula. He plays the ball through, splits the defence. Georginio Rutter on slightly the left-hand side of the central position, receives the ball, plays it with his left foot, and it kind of goes through the keeper. I thought it was a cross into, I think, Buonanotte, who was arriving to tap it in, but it actually had crossed the line by Rutter's kind of shot/pass. I think it probably was a shot. The angle was quite bad. It was a shot. It went through the keeper, and then kind of Buonanotte was there, but it actually already crossed the line. So a really, really nicely worked goal. I thought Buonanotte looked decent as well. Got stuck in. There was a moment where he got into a bit of a scrap with one of the Stoke players. I think it might have even been Lewis Baker then as well. I can't remember. I think Baker got booked, but I don't think there was another player who actually pushed him, which I thought was a bit out of order, to be honest, in a pre-season game, because Buonanotte, if you watch it back, he really didn't do anything. But Buonanotte looked good. He looked lively. He was shooting a lot. He was running at players. I think he probably will go out on loan. And Rutter looked good as well, constantly dribbling at players. So, overall it was a positive performance. It was a good win. We saw a couple of new players. We saw some young players. Harry Howe looked good. Kalin Vickers looked really good. Diego Coppola looked fantastic. A lot of Moran looked all right. Cashin looked fairly decent. Mitoma, Buonanotte, Tasker, Webster. Everyone looked. No one looked bad. Everyone looked pretty good. But it's just hard to say at this point. It's kind of just it feels still at this point like a training. And I mean, it is a training match, but it feels like a fitness exercise as opposed to a tactical testing game. Maybe they had drones flying over the pitch. You could hear them in the commentary. There's obviously, as always, there's going to be a deep tactical analysis to it. But I don't think we can necessarily... The long and short of it is, what can we learn from this? I think tactically, not a lot. What we can learn is that Brighton have a lot of good players. Brighton have a lot of good technical players. Players who can play in different positions, players who I'd even forgotten about. And the funniest thing about it all is that that's not like even half of them, is it? Because I've just listed 20 players who didn't even feature. And we're probably going to sign maybe one more, two more this summer. So I think the headline there is we got to get rid of a lot of players, or at least loan out a few players. But Brighton have got a really good squad, and that we played really well. I'm excited to see how we look on Monday. Is it going to be a bit more of a stronger, strung 11? Or is it just going to literally be the remaining kind of 18 to 20 players just banged in? And these guys will have a break. I'd be interested to know. I don't know. I actually sense there might be a bit of a mix, because I think you do kind of need to stop. But then also, like, some players have just had no minutes. Tommy Watson's had no minutes. Maxim Dikaiba's had no minutes. Kostilas Simas have had no minutes. So really, they probably will play. He probably will play a bit of bit of a brand new side, won't it? It will be probably 11 changes again and then 11 changes at half time again. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, good to see Brighton back. It looked hot out in Marbella, and I'm imagining they're having a very productive and enjoyable camp. I mean, who wouldn't love to be in Marbella right now playing football all week? It would be absolutely brilliant. And yeah, so Las Palmas on Monday. Excited to watch that game. Excited to see how we set up. Let me know in the comments, who did you think stood out the most today? What do you think we learned? Do you think you can read anything into these games? Do you think it's kind of just a fitness exercise and it's pointless kind of deeping it too much? Who were your standout players? For me, probably was Harry Howell, Yelkule, Kalin Vickers, and obviously Diego Coppola, among so many others. You know, pretty much everyone played well. But let me know who you thought the player of the match was and what you think this means. Do you think the fact we didn't play a back three means we're not going to play a back three next season? I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. If you want to be part of this community, the fastest growing Brighton fan community that is out there right now, I would really, really appreciate it if you get involved. I will see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, up the Albion.